because I just want to go ahead and like vent out this kind of thing uh to you guys, all right? And it's got me a little bit thinking, okay? Uh, big time thinking. Um, Let me see if my head is in the way. Ooh, I have such pretty brown eyes. I never realized when I make myself bigger that I have such gorgeous eyes. So I got to thinking before we go on to the gameplay, because I feel like this is kind of like one of those like get to know your YouTuber kind of things. So let me check my audio because sometimes it kind of conks out a little bit. Let me see. Is it good? Is it is the audio good? Because I don't want it to accidentally conk out. Because it does that from time to time. Like every time I open up like a game on the PC, it always conks out either my video or my audio. So it's like, okay, so the audio is okay. And then like either it's either it sounds like the that horrible squealing sound, you know, when somebody drops a microphone and you hear that annoying ringing in the microphone. Sometimes it does that. Other times it just makes me sound like a mouse. And it happens sometimes. For the most part, when it happens randomly, it doesn't happen very often. But when it does, it's just like it's either you're listening to a fire alarm getting squealed into your ear when you were in grade school, or I sound like a freaking mouse. So, so I don't want to like put up my volume a little bit too loud or a little bit too low, so it just doesn't conk out. But it's probably gonna conk out anyways. It's probably the microphone, but I'm not paying $500 for a microphone. No, no, I'm not paying. I'm not paying that much for a freaking Elgato. No. So going back on topic, trying to mm, get my water here. No, that's not piss, okay, or anything of that nature. It's juice enhancer. That one. So, anyways, it got me to thinking because my mom pretty much says that we had a conversation earlier today, and she says that I have a communication problem. Okay, and I got to thinking, why is that? Like for the longest time, like why is that? Like I had to like go down my entire memory as to like, okay, why do I have a problem like communicating with it, and why do I sound like I'm super aggressive half the time? Even around people, in the open world. I mean, not probably not like with you guys. Uh, Maybe I do sound very angry at times, and it's not the fact that I'm completely mad at you personally, as the audience. I'm completely mad because of the mere fact that I can't really communicate very well with the person, okay? And I had to, like I said before, I had to figure out like why that is in the first place. And it's it boils down to what happened a long time ago. And I really had to go deep into my memory and psychoanalyze everything because that's what I do. I just like for every thing that happens in your life, there's always a reason, okay? I'm not a mad person. I am not a mean person. I am not like some sort of like arrogant, egotistical person of any kind of nature, okay? It's just that I became this way, okay? And when it all really started, uh, and for the most, like have to like word this very clearly so that a lot of people can understand because this is going to be very, very complicated, and it's going to sound like it's a damn mess. Okay, so a long time ago, and for some odd reason, I still remember this. I went to a child psychologist. I remember I was like, well, I was younger than 10 years old. I do remember I was younger than 10. Okay. And when they were like kind of like analyzing how I learned and stuff like that, because this is like old school stuff. It's not like how it is in like the tech world where you can, insta tell like how your child's learning is going to be. Okay. Because back then, and this is going to be significant later, back then there was only two schools of education. Okay, two schools of education. There was no in betweens. There was no cyber education. There was nothing of that nature. There was only two schools. You had your private schools for the smart and the gifted, and then you had your public schools, which is where you learn your communication skills and vocal output. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, now backtrack a few years to my less than 10 years old. Okay, so I was told by in front of my mother because she was telling my mother that I had the mental. I guess the correct word would be the mental acuity at such a young age, um, of a junior in college, or was that a junior in high school? I don't know, but it was a junior, eh, up there in higher education, and my parents were like, "Oh, this is cool," and stuff like that. So I guess later on, I went into like a private school. Now I kind of vaguely remember private school, although I was in there for a very short time. Simply because that my mental acuity was like up there, but I was one of those like rare breeds to where my emotional intelligence was up there. And back then, when you were enrolled into a private school, you are not only smart, you also had the most atrocious, arrogant, egotistical, and maniacal type of attitude that you would actually see even in today's corporate CEOs. That's how it is, really. You see some of these like game developers who have like say for instance, for example, the Diablo Immortal devs when they announced their game for mobile. You know how one of them came out and said, "Oh, you guys have your mobile phones," and that interview where everybody just booed at them. Okay, that's a person from private school back in the day. Arrogant, egotistical, and it's very self-centered, but their intelligence is high. So I didn't fit well in because my emotional intelligence was not that low. It was higher. So I got into fights with the people like that, against people. So I was like, okay, private school's out of the question. Well, I go to public school because the emotional intelligence kind of matched with mine. Okay. But the mental acuity was atrocious. Okay. And I would get into fights a lot of the time with stupid, dumb people. Okay. A lot of the time. So it was like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Now how am I supposed to actually fit in with a crowd? Like, how am I supposed to communicate? I can't communicate with people in private school. I can't communicate with people in public school. Either I become arrogant and selfish, or I become a a stupid moron. Okay, and that's where it is. And think about it for a second. There, it's like you're a person who's like up here on both ends. Okay, and you're going to a school where it's either your mental acuity and your emotional intelligence. It's either you go to a school that's up like this, which is a private school, or you go to a school which is like this. There's no school back then that appealed to both. There was none. Not like nowadays where you have like digital education and stuff like that. So I went through elementary school. I went through junior high school. I went through and even failed 1 year of high school. All those years of school until finally my senior year of high school. Finally, my senior year of high school. Okay. Where they introduced where they introduced a a teaching method for people like computer aided graphics. This is all gonna come. This is all gonna come together when you realize this. Okay, so I got into that program. Okay, and I kid you not, I did 4 years of my high school, the entirety of my high school, in that computer program within 6 months. I went my entire school life being a C, D, and F student. In my final year in high school, I went from a B to A plus student. So not only was the social structure flawed, the education system was flawed. Okay? And there was nothing for me during my entire school years. I did the only people that I could have like related with my emotional intelligence and my mental acuity was people in advanced placements, advanced blah 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 blah. People in advanced placement, but I didn't have the motivation to keep going in school. I couldn't place in advanced placement because I just didn't have the motivation anymore. It's like I'm fighting with people who were either too stupid and too emotionally invested, or too smart and didn't care about human life. And I was like, I just need to be by myself. Honestly, I just needed to be by myself. And for the most part, I was by myself. So I didn't have a chance to really hone in on my communication skills because there was nobody for me to communicate with. Nobody. So I'm sitting over here, and I'm I'm sorry to like a lot of people that seem like, oh, okay, I'm making fun of them and stuff like that. It's because I'm like one of the rarest people in the entire freaking world. I'm probably like 5% of the world fucking population. You see what I'm saying? Like 90, like I could probably be like Elon Musk or like an Albert Einstein. People like those people. Leonardo da Vinci. These people, you know, they're so bright, they're so smart, they're so advanced, and people look down on them because they didn't have any social acuity at all. Well, of course there's no social acuity. You either had one extreme or you had the other extreme. There was never an in between. So I'm just like, and you know the I think that's probably one of the reasons why I'm like on YouTube and stuff like that is because I need to find people like me. Like seriously. But it's really hard because I'm like it's really hard because at a young age, it's like we didn't have this kind of technology like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all this other stuff. There was no way to communicate with people. Now that there's a way to communicate with people, it's like I'm gonna end up coming off as like a person that people don't like. Well, I'm sorry if you don't like me or the way I'm communicating, but it's because like in my past, it's like I was born with this stuff and there was nothing to what is it called? The, nothing to nurture the person that I am. Nothing. The teachers sucked. The people in public and private schools sucked because there was nothing for people like me. So I mean, it's and I fell into a deep depression. I remember I fell into a deep depression because there was nobody really to talk to. And it hurts. It hurts a lot that I cannot talk to people, you know, to their level because I can't get to their level. I mean, I could try to mitigate it to some extent, but literally, I can't. I'm either and I'm sorry for I sound like arrogant and stuff like that, but I'm either uh too advanced for you mentally, or I'm too like uh too much of a person who wears their heart on their sleeve. You see what I'm saying? It's like, jeez. And it didn't, and it's like been like that all my life. The only people that I could have communicated with, and this is gonna surprise you, at 10 years old or like 9 years old, I could only talk to people that were in their 30s and 40s. But I couldn't talk to people within my age group. Can you under can you understand how messed up that is? Can you understand like the kind of mental frustration that had on me? Like I just and now I'm at now I'm at a point in my life at my age where like there's people that are like as old as me right now and they're finally able to talk to me. Well, no shit. You're 20 years too fucking late. It just really annoys me. Like I spent like like 15, like around all the way up into college too, until I quit. 15 years of my youth with nothing to show for it. So I'm just like, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, I'm upset. I have, and you know what? After all this time, it's like, okay, put myself out there, let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? And still there's this level of disconnect with people. Okay, and I'm sure like a lot of people nowadays, because of the advent of technology, these people are easier to spot. You know, the really dumb people. Okay, but there's no way to spot these when I was going to school. Like back in the 90s, in the 80s, and the all the way up into 2002, there was no way to track that. Now there is. Now people are wiser. But I'm just like, is it really too little too late? I mean, in my mind, it's getting to that point. Like it's too little too late. I'm just like, mm. And in my entire school year, in my entire life, I was only friends with three legitimate people. Three, legitimately, three people in the entire 12 to 15 years of my school. Because those are the only people who could I talk to. One was in high school, and he and I were friends for like 3 years. Okay, until he went to college and kind of like left the country because at that point in time there was some stupid politics that were going during that time, and this has something to do with the Pledge of Allegiance in Texas. Okay, and what is it called? The war on terror back then. And the other one was in elementary school where I talked to a guy named Eric. His name was Eric, and he was a bit of a nerd. Okay, so yeah, and everybody else around me was a dickhead. I had to deal with bullies because they were not smart as me. I was like better than them and stuff like that. It's like uh, one friend who was a fat guy, who was a nerd, who probably could be compared to like a Nikado Avocado kind of guy. But he and I worked together at a store here in the town, and he was supposed to be like a movie director and stuff like that. But I don't think he got out of the whole public school system unscathed either. he was working at a store and he's talking big about making movies and stuff like that. I I really don't think he's in a very right mental state. I think he was like a person just like me, but he had more damage on his mental state than I did. And it sucks. It really does suck. I wish I could find him one of these days and just like talk to him and see what's like going on, but he just disappeared. I don't know what's happening with him. The guy could probably just be homeless or he could just be dead or whatnot. It's just like, anyways. So that's my little history. I mean, if I come off as like you know somebody that's like not normal in the head, it's just know that I had history. Am I working on it? Of course I'm working on it. But I again, I don't mean to sound arrogant. I don't mean to sound, you know, uh egotistical or anything like that. It's just the way it is. The way I live my life. The way not my experience. It's silly. I know. But anyways, let's get into the whole gaming genre and stuff like that.